If this is the webinar which you plan to attend today, then you're in the right place. And if it's not, you should stay anyway. I promise you, it's time very well spent. In a few moments, we will start with opening words by Professor Sun, who I assume has joined us, but I'm not 100% sure. I think he has.
Yes. Hello.
Oh, fantastic. Then in a moment, I can announce you. Yeah, I cannot read the Chinese characters, so I was hoping that you had. Very good. We'll wait one more minute until it's officially 5 p.m. and then we'll kick it off. And we apologize beforehand. This is our first event on Google Meet, so we're learning. So some things could go slightly differently than planned. Yeah, that's how life is. Very exciting always. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 5 p.m. Time to get started with the AppliedHE Exchange Taiwan. It is my honor and pleasure to call upon Changzhou Christian University Vice President, Professor Hui Min Sun, to deliver some opening comments. Please.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Hui Min Sun, Vice President of CJCU, Taiwan. Welcome to join the AppliedHE Taiwan Launch Exchange New Kid on the Block webinar that CJCU co-organized with AppliedHE. In the recent decades, globalization has brought us, the higher education leaders, the opportunities to bring the world into college classrooms and other spaces of student learning to foster civic and global citizenship. The border is what has widened the access of higher education, and this creates a solution while we are coping with the challenges of the low birth rate. But now the COVID-19 epidemic has brought us a greater challenge. It has reduced our movement and forced us to move our classes online. Therefore, at the moment, we need to work harder to solve the problems from this. Even so, I still believe when we are ready, we can still bring the globalization into our campus during the pandemic time. Lately, all higher education institutions around the world try their best to accommodate the impacts from globalization, especially in countries like Taiwan, where English is not a native language or even the official language. We have offered English talk courses as the links to the world and as one of the strategies to internationalize the campuses. However, we are also facing difficulties while offering EMI programs, including whether the English proficiency of both students and the faculties are good enough to learn and teach in English. The resistance from students and teachers, especially when they still have the option of using their native language to teach and learn, and whether the EMI teams, which are mainly composed of local teachers, have sufficient cross-cultural abilities to handle the cross-cultural interactions between local teacher and the local students, or between local teachers and the foreign students in the classrooms, will be the concerns and the need more studies to explore further. On the other hand, the National Development Council of Taiwan Executive Yuan has launched the blueprint for developing Taiwan into a bilingual nation by 2030. It hopes to cultivate more bilingual tolerance through the bilingualization of the education system. In this way, Taiwan will be further internationalized and our younger generations will be able to take greater competitive advantages. This would worth investing more time and efforts to look for more effective EMI strategies for the best outcomes. In this webinar, we invite Dr. Maurits van Rooijen from University of Europe for Applied Sciences, Germany, to share his experience in EMI strategy. It will be very important for all the higher education institutions in Taiwan while we are working toward the 2030 bilingual country project. Let's learn and share what we can attempt to reach the goal. Besides, we also invite Ms. Mandy Mock, the CEO and the founder of AppliedHE, to share what AppliedHE is doing and the services and the resources they can provide. I believe this will be very beneficial for your institute. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Sun, for the opening words. Then it's now the turn of the AppliedHE founder and CEO, Ms. Mandy Mock. Please go ahead.
Right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, can see.
Good evening and welcome to the AppliedHE Launch Exchange for Taiwan. So we have been very active organizing launch events like this for countries around the world, from Pakistan, Indonesia, and Malaysia to Kazakhstan and Russia, the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, Philippines, and the next one scheduled for week after is Vietnam. The AppliedHE Exchange is an opportunity for us to give you a flavor of what AppliedHE has to offer, and in exchange to better understand the issues that you are facing in Taiwan. I'm very grateful to our host, Changchun Christian University, CJCU, especially President Yonglong Lee, Vice President Dr. Hui Min San, and Dr. Min Yu Lee, Associate Professor of Department of International Business and Dean of Office of Global Engagement. Thank you all for your great support. And also to our guest speaker, Professor Maurits van Rooijen, Chief Academic Officer from Global University Systems, also known as GUS, and Rector of University of Europe for Applied Sciences in Germany. And finally, thanks to you, the audience from across Taiwan and beyond. Thank you for joining us today. I created and launched AppliedHE in January 2020 after an almost 20-year career at QS with the aim of creating an alternative solution in rankings, ratings, and branding that better serves the need of more learning and employability-focused applied universities, which I believe are dominant in the ASEAN region and, in fact, all over the world. At the same time, the solutions AppliedHE offers are compatible with other rankings out there. It's not an either-or choice. AppliedHE can help you with international branding and marketing, student recruitment, benchmarking, and a range of other solutions. Because AppliedHE is the new kid on the block, we're nimbler, hungrier, and more sensitive to your needs, and ready with a whole suite of exciting and innovative services. At the same time, my team, who are also veterans of QS, and I are highly experienced in this sector. So we have an unparalleled track record that speaks for itself. Now, without further ado, let's get started. As mentioned, AppliedHE was launched on the 1st of January of 2020, so we're still very young, just a year and a half old. And now you have an alternative choice from what is currently available in the market. We offer higher education's evaluation and branding solutions that focus on employability and learning, And you'll find that our tagline for the company aptly amplifies that: skills and job ready, future proof. Our strength lies in reaching out not only to academics but also include stakeholders from industry, civil society, government, students, parents, alumni, faculty, etc. Just basically everybody. Here's an outline of my presentation. I will introduce the company, AppliedHE, and all our initiatives, from evaluation tools, that is the set of ratings, job ready, English ready, and online ready, to building your global reputation with our networking solutions like Future, the world's first networking platform for the higher education sector, to our Xchange webinars and events, and Extra, our e-newsletter. And of course, our special events and special projects, which I will share with you later. All these will help your institution achieve not only global but also local visibility and branding with all your stakeholders effectively and efficiently. AppliedHE is the new brand for all skills-based employment-focused education, and our mission is designed to help universities to communicate with their stakeholders, engage with your international and local peers, industry and government, and brand your institution worldwide, including improving in the rankings. In the following slides, I'd like to introduce the initiatives of AppliedHE. I've grouped them into four segments. So let's start with the evaluation tools first. When we first started the company in January 2020, we only had the job ready rating. Today, I'm pleased to say AppliedHE has three rating systems. We have the all-round job ready rating system to evaluate the quality of teaching and learning and employability of your graduates. An English ready rating to evaluate the quality of English language as a medium of instruction in non-English speaking countries. And it is also a great market tool for the recruitment of international students as well. And the online ready rating, which helps your institution benchmark and promote its online programs and courses. The ratings not only serve as benchmarking tools, but they are also effective and affordable marketing tools. You can benchmark your institution's performance for quality improvement, as our criteria are relevant and implementation is relatively quick. And it is not just a rating per se, it also provides market intelligence so that you can make informed choices um, and strategies without having to go for expensive market consultancies. As a marketing tool, it can quickly communicate to your stakeholders your institution's excellence and quality. The fact that you're affiliated with the AppliedHE brand also shows that you are job and skills ready, future proof. Basically, the ratings is a great tool to meet your institution's quest for global branding and excellence. So let's start with the AppliedHE Job Ready rating. This rating is so versatile that it can be applied to not only universities but also suitable for professional institutions. By professional institutions, we mean your vocational, your TVETs, polytechnics, and colleges. It's also suitable for business schools and online education. The Job Ready rating applies to any skills-based, employment-focused tertiary education program where students are prepared for a clearly defined job or occupational pathway. And we distinguish ourselves from other generalist higher education as they generally have no clear career pathway. Our ratings is aimed at evaluating professional education such as engineering, nursing, medicine, law, accounting, art and design, media, basically any program that involves industry collaboration, regardless of whether it's for universities, online education, professional institutions, and business schools. Here's the new perspective, the creative twist. We do not do a rating of your institution per se. We rate your institution based on your programs by employment cluster. And the employment cluster is adapted from the International Standard Industrial Classification. This means we can now bring a spotlight to your every program, regardless of whether it's big or small. And currently, there is no marketing tool in the market to help you achieve this. Take, for example, the employment cluster healthcare. The mainstream subjects that fall under healthcare are your medicine, dentistry, nursing, etc. But what about the smaller ones like radiology, physiotherapy, and even hospital administration? Now, with the AppliedHE Job Ready Ratings methodology, we can bring the global spotlight to your every program, whether it's big or small. There are 22 employment clusters from the International Standard Industrial Classification, and it covers all sectors of the economy. And this list is growing daily because the world is changing so fast that there are many jobs out there today that never existed in the past. Jobs like these: e-commerce, gaming, coding, social media marketing, influencer, blogger, just to name a few. And these are not even proper words in the past, but today they are reputable and very much sought after jobs. And our unique approach to rating by employment clusters can accommodate these new jobs and the future economy. You will note that many of our criteria overlaps with the goals of the SDG, and the applied HE job ready rating is done primarily by surveys to your stakeholders. Stakeholders like your students, faculty, employers, and alumni. So what this means is you will have access to market intelligence of your key stakeholders, and these information are very relevant to your strategies, future plans, internal decision making, KPIs, etc. And it is market intelligence that you do not have to pay a hefty sum for, as it comes as part of the ratings. This is all part of our effort to help you stretch your budget as much as possible. Once rated, you will be presented with the Applied HE Job Ready Ratings badge, and you can use it on all your marketing materials. And the ratings are awarded by employment cluster, and the country of origin is clearly stated so that stakeholders are clear on the market that you serve. Now, this is very important as employment and jobs differ in each country. Institutions can score from 1 to 5 job ready, with 5 representing the best institutions, and the badges are valid for 3 years. You'll also receive a certificate listing the score and all the evaluated programs. So this means even your smallest program will be able to share the global limelight. And you can use the Applied HE Job Ready Rating Certificate in all your marketing materials as well. And the ratings will help to associate your institution with quality of teaching and learning and employability of your graduates. Now let's look at the Applied HE English Ready Rating. It's a great tool to evaluate an institution's English medium of instruction readiness. I understand that the government of Taiwan have it in their blueprint to develop Taiwan into a bilingual nation, in which equal importance will be given to Chinese and English as a means of raising the nation's international perspective and international communication ability so as to be more competitive on the global stage. So for Taiwanese universities to participate in this rating is definitely in line with the objective of your ministry. CJCU has already been rated, and my colleague Peter will share their results with you later. As you know, many universities around the world now offer programs in English, but the level and completeness of English language instruction varies greatly, especially for universities from non-English speaking countries which offer English language degree programs. So to summarize, the Applied HE English Ready rating can be a useful internal benchmarking tool and a great marketing tool for the recruitment of international students. Some challenges of EMI. EMI stands for English as a Medium of Instruction. Currently, there is no global standard for EMI, and therefore, courses taught in English in non-English speaking countries can vary greatly in their content. Students and faculty both struggle due to limited English language capabilities, and often the focus of EMI courses is combined with the local language, making English a second language. The rating enables you to rate the extent and quality of instruction in English, not just for individual programs, but also suitable for departments and or institutions. It's a great tool for international benchmarking of EMI and identifying strengths and weaknesses. It's also an effective tool for the recruitment of international students. And of course, the surveys help you to better understand the stakeholders' perception of EMI. Let's move on to the Applied HE Online-Ready rating. Online education, which used to be a virgin space in terms of regulation and often seen as second best or for those needing a second chance, has shed its negative image because of the current COVID situation. In today's environment, an online degree are an increasingly appealing alternative for traditional on-campus programs. COVID-19 has brought the future forward. Everyone is going online these days, including us. So why an online-ready rating? As you all know, online education has grown exponentially since the start of the pandemic, and it seems virtual is going to stay, and even if things go back to normal, it won't be the normal that we know, but the new normal, which is why we need to be ahead of the curve now, as there is a huge demand for online courses. The future is going to be a hybrid mix of online and physical attendance, and the earlier we're ready for it, the better. The benefits of being online ready rated has many folds. First, it enables your institution to have a global benchmark and understand better how others' online programs are performing. It's also a great marketing and branding tool to attract not only domestic but also international students, as it helps to demonstrate your institution's online ready learning to a global audience. And with this rating, you can understand the stakeholders' perceptions of the different aspects of online learning so that you can create relevant strategies to meet their needs. So now we come to the second group of initiatives, and that is our strategies for global reputation and networking. We recently launched Future in January. Future is the world's first professional networking platform for the higher education sector. We have physical and virtual events under the brand of Xchange, and we also have an e-news wire called Extra Extra, now indexed by Google News. And we're confident three initiatives will increase your global and local reputation and network very quickly. You can share your institution's news and content by submitting stories to Extra Extra. You can speak at our Xchange events, both virtual and physical, and you can contribute articles and interact with your students, peers, alumni, industry, etc. on Future, while at the same time develop global partnerships and increase your network. You can also participate in sponsorships to increase the awareness and attention of your institution and to be seen as a leader. So Future was launched on the 20th of January of this year. It is the world's first professional networking platform designed for the higher education sector. And Future aims to connect everyone from high school to professional career to lifelong learning for the three E's: education, employment, and everything in between. These are the most important career milestones in life, from the moment you are a high school student to being a student in higher education to being a successful graduate, employer, entrepreneur, or even an alumni donor. And all these stakeholders will be centered around institutions and industries and the 22 employment clusters that I introduced earlier for the job ready rating. There is nothing like this on the market, so we are in a very blue ocean indeed. Future is designed for higher education leaders, students, alumni, and employers who want to stay informed about the latest developments in the higher education sector. Besides the usual social media activities, you can also use Future as a teaching aid, and we will be introducing a new feature to help you with alumni engagement and management, something many Asian universities are still not very strong in. I will speak more about this service in a short while. In the pipeline are also services for student recruitment, internships, research collaboration, and lifelong learning. In short, eventually Future will include the entire higher education and career experience from leaving high school to retirement. So please sign up for Future and encourage your friends and peers to sign up too. It's free and it is the only professional networking platform you'll ever need. So the new feature I want to touch on in Future is the Alumni Engagement and Management Service. Institutions of higher learning in many parts of the world have long underestimated the value of their alumni network. And we all know that investing in alumni relations can provide a high return on investment for an institution. For example, alumni can act as recruiters for the institution. They can help open doors to employers and industry partnerships. They can share their industry knowledge, act as mentors, become students of lifelong learning programs, and they can be even tapped on as donors for new projects. A strong alumni engagement strategy is not built overnight, but fortunately, AppliedHE can help your institution get started. As you can see from my slide here, there is a whole host of stuff we can help you with your alumni engagement and management. And you can even design your page on Future to reflect your institution's branding, like NTU here. You can read all the text later, as the slides will be provided to you after this webinar. I just want to draw your attention to the 2 points in bold, and that is Future is globally accessible and Facebook is not accessible in China. And the second point is this is a free service, so please do take advantage of it. Another strategy for global branding is, of course, our physical events, but they need to be on hold now. To give you a quick introduction of our physical events, which also go by the brand Xchange, we have Xchange events by employment cluster. For example, Xchange Healthcare or Xchange IT as an employment cluster. Or if you want to drill down to a specific subject, you can host an exchange by subject, example, Xchange Nursing or Xchange Dentistry. Or you can host an exchange by region, for example, Xchange Asia or Xchange Middle East. Or you can even focus on a specific country, like Xchange Taiwan. These events are an effective strategy for global branding and networking, and by God's will, we hope to resume in 2022. So when the pandemic hit us last year, and there was no way we can travel for our physical events, so instead of moping around and feeling sorry for ourselves, we started a series of Squaring the Circle debate webinars. It was fun, provocative, it was very refreshing, and I believe we were the most active in the online space at that time, as we were organizing a webinar every other week from the month of June to the end of the year. And we're continuing this regular webinar series into this year with one webinar every month instead of every other week, as we do not want you to complain of webinar fatigue. Another regular webinar that is alternating with Squaring the Circle debate is the Fireside Chat. So for the rest of this year, we will have a webinar every first Wednesday of the month with Fireside Chat and Squaring the Circle debate alternating every other month, all the way to December of 2021, always on a Wednesday evening, always at 8 p.m. Singapore time. So please keep your monthly first Wednesday nights free. In addition to the regular monthly webinars, we also organize bespoke webinars according to clients' topic of interest. So do check with us if you like us to organize a webinar with your preferred theme. And we have our e-newsletter, Extra Extra. Again, this is unique to AppliedHE. Here, we will help you to promote your institutional news on the global stage. And this is yet another complimentary service from us. All you have to do is send us your news that are extraordinary, and we will publish and promote it to your targeted global audience. And in the short space of time since our launch, we're now indexed by Google News. So this means our readership is growing rapidly. Therefore, this is a great and targeted medium to showcase stories from your institution to the world. For institutions that submit news, the stories will reach a much wider audience. And for readers, it will enable them to receive all the latest news from their favorite news sources in one place. Special events is under our third group of initiatives, and the bite-sized online internship is our special event, and we're currently running a pilot with it now. This new initiative is the first of its kind, and the following 3 slides will show you the benefits for the 3 groups of stakeholders involved, and they're your students, your university, and the employers. So for students, aside from being able to learn, share ideas and knowledge, they will have the opportunity to build a global network while still in school. They will also build valuable employability skills and connect with several potential employers or industries before deciding on what they really want as a career. Plus, they will have the opportunity to market themselves to prospective employers for permanent employment. For institutions who participate in the bite-sized internship, they will enhance the students' uni experience with this entrepreneurship experience. Institutions will be able to expose their students to an international online environment and connect them to prospective international employers. And for sure, it will definitely enhance and improve university industry experience as well. This bite-sized online internship is a very innovative approach to student internships, and it will highlight the university's leadership to its internal and external stakeholders. And for employers, they will have global access to a diverse talent pool of top talent and original ideas. Employers will also have the opportunity to develop relationships with innovative university partners and the opportunity to brand themselves to this group of prospective and potential employees. So you can see this new service is very innovative and creative and will definitely bring internships to a new level. Special projects is our fourth group of initiative, and they are namely rankings. January was a busy month for us. In addition to launching Future, we also launched the Rankometer, a new ranking that is based on one single and transparent benchmark. Now, there has been a huge proliferation of university rankings in recent years, and students, parents, and even employers simply don't know where to look for a reliable comparison of universities. With the Rankometer, we've solved that problem by providing a transparent and reliable measure of university quality. What is a Rankometer? To be precise, the Rankometer is a composite ranking of the world's 5 most influential world university rankings. So with the launch of the Rankometer, we had good media coverage, and what this means is it adds credibility to the new kit, which is AppliedHE, as we've had many inquiries after. So this means if you're associated with the AppliedHE brand, your branding and global visibility will be greatly enhanced too. So with the recent success and excitement from the launch of the Rankometer, plans to launch more important and relevant rankings are in the pipeline. We're currently looking at launching the ASEAN Private University Ranking and the Middle East Private University Ranking. Another very unique ranking to look out for is the preferred rankings. So what are the preferred rankings? The preferred rankings are a pair of national rankings of the country's most desirable employers and educational institutions. This rankings exercise is designed to stimulate collaboration between the academic and the business community to help bridge the national skills gap. So by having twin national rankings of universities and employers, it will enable collaboration and competition between the two entities so as to attract and nurture the nation's best talent, taking employability to the next level. This is a complimentary service. Rules and conditions apply, of course, so please contact us if you want more information. Now, this is my second last slide, and I would like to leave you with a list of the first of its kind from AppliedHE. We have Future, the world's first professional networking platform, specially created for the higher education sector, alumni engagement and management service, and the bite-sized online internship. And for rankings, AppliedHE preferred rankings for both local universities and employers, the ASEAN Private University Ranking, and the Middle East Private University Ranking. And this is my last slide, which gives you an overview of all the products and services that AppliedHE have created in the short space of time since our inception. We are indeed the new kid on the block, and as mentioned in my opening, we are nimbler, hungrier, and more sensitive to your needs. AppliedHE can help you with international branding and marketing, student recruitment benchmarking, and a range of other solutions locally, that is, global and local. So I hope you are as excited as we are creating all these new and innovative strategies for you. Please write to us if you have any questions or would like more information or even demos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mandy. And then it's now time to go to our keynote speaker, the Chief Academic Officer of the Global University System and the Rector of the University of, or the University of European Applied Sciences. He'll correct me in a second. Um, uh, None other than Professor Maurits van Rooyen. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much indeed, Peter. And hope you can hear and see me all right.
Yeah, all clear, all clear.
Excellent, excellent. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. For in case you wonder why I'm sounding so cheerful at the end of a long day, it's because for me it's actually only the start of the day. I'm speaking to you from London. I just finished my second cup of coffee and I'm looking forward to a new exciting day, and it's great to start that day with meeting so many of my dear colleagues in Taiwan. It's really regrettable I cannot be there in person because I love Taiwan and I would love to be able to come back soon again, but of course with the current travel restrictions that's not really possible. But then again, the good news is that we now can all meet virtually, and it's therefore easier to meet, and that is a theme which will no doubt come back a few times in my presentation as well. So a quick self-introduction. As you might pick up from my name, Van Rooyen, that is not a Chinese name, it's not an English name, and it's not even a German name, it's a Dutch name. So Joseph, you picked a windmill as your photo. Well done. It makes me feel homesick. It's what is a Dutch person doing in London? It's because 10 years ago, I initiated something which is called Global University Systems. It's a university system in the private sector which operates universities around the world. We now have something like 25 educational institutions, 15 or so universities, from Vancouver up to Singapore and even a campus in Hong Kong. And that is based, the headquarters of that is based here in London. But I am also rector, as Peter said, that's the German word for president of the university, one of our German universities, University of Europe for Applied Sciences. So my work takes me into 3 different languages all the time. So obviously the Netherlands, Dutch, Germany, where they speak German, and here in the UK, where obviously they speak English. And that's actually quite remarkable for someone who at school was not considered to be particularly good in languages. My background is really much more in mathematics and so on. It says something about the modern world. And what I want to do in the next 20 or so minutes is really share some of the experiences I have had in university management in introducing English in universities which are not English-speaking universities. So English as a tool for instruction in a non-English environment, which obviously is very relevant for you as well. So I'm going to talk about those experiences. I do not have slides to present. I just talk freely, and you can ask questions afterwards saying, okay, how would that maybe look like for my own institution, as you are going through that experience yourself at the moment. So to go back to when this all started, introducing English as a language of instruction at the university, I have to go back to the late 1980s, when I was working at the Erasmus University Rotterdam. So in the late 1980s, I was a bit of a pioneer in the Netherlands of introducing English taught classes and courses in quite a large scale, right? This is a long time ago, and some of you probably weren't even born yet. It was an interesting experience, but we built on that. We had some pushback as well, and I will talk a little bit about that later. When I was, for instance, at Leiden University, also in the Netherlands, I was vice president there in I think 1998 to 2000, 1999 to 2004, 5 years. We then, for instance, would say that all the master degrees, all postgraduate teaching was done completely in English, except for those degree programs where that didn't make sense, like Dutch law or Dutch literature or something like that. But everything else was actually taught in English. And now, at the moment in Germany, my university, University of Europe for Applied Sciences, is a completely bilingual university. So we teach both in German and in English. So half the students are German, half the students are international, they mix, the campuses are mixed, and the teaching are using both languages. So you can choose whether you do a track in German or in English, and much of it is actually interlinked anyway. So what do you need to do? What have I gained from doing this, and where do I find that, you know, what to do, but also what not to do, to put it simple. first of all, it's awkward for people to speak English when neither of them are actually English speakers. So let's say Peter here, who just introduced me, he's Flemish, so he speaks Dutch. When Peter and I meet, it will be awkward suddenly to start speaking English with each other, right? Dutch is our language. So one of these things which is really awkward is if you have, let's say, a professor speaking English, a Chinese professor speaking English to a group of Chinese students. That feels very unnatural. And it's really forcing to do that. So it is very important if you really want to introduce English as a medium of instruction that you change some elements of that equation. So one element you can, of course, introduce, and that is done by many universities, is you introduce foreign staff. So basically staff who do not speak Chinese, teaching, therefore, by default, automatically in English as the most spoken second language in the world, not the most spoken language, but the most spoken second language in the world, in English to the students. So it's normal. It's a normal means of instruction. So foreign professors are particularly relevant when it comes to introducing English as a medium of instruction. And that is, of course, done partly by hiring foreign staff. I mean, this is what became known as internationalization at home, bringing international experts on campus, which is very important and very useful and changes very much the atmosphere and you know the teaching conditions at the university, but of course it's also quite expensive. Nowadays, of course, we also have the big advantage of virtual and hybrid teaching, which is much more cost effective. So bringing in people in a virtual way, then suddenly yes, you can hire foreign staff actually for the same amount of money as you would hire local staff, or sometimes even less, right? And this is something which is becoming very popular, and the COVID crisis has really been helpful in this. And I'll give you a concrete example. Global University Systems has a university, has two universities in India. Pearl Academy and University for Petroleum and Energy Studies, UPS. UPS needed staff to teach certain courses quickly. So we made an arrangement that something like 30 of their modules were actually being taught by professors sitting in Germany, teaching the students in India. And then they made another arrangement with one of our other universities, Arden University in the UK, to do something like 50 modules, all taught virtually in you know, synchronous, so at the same time. So the professor would beam in from Germany or from England and would teach obviously in English. Now in India that is not so much of an issue because English is, you know, the second spoken language there anyway. I mean, so that's the common language. I mean, but it is a very good way to really familiarize students to being taught in English, rather than having a Chinese professor speaking English to a Chinese class, right? So this is a very powerful tool, which I didn't have at my disposal when we started introducing English classes in the late 80s, obviously. But it is now something which I think can be used in a very cost-effective way. Now, in all fairness, virtual teaching is not exactly the same as having someone there. You know, I would prefer to be in Taiwan and meet you afterwards for a drink and a chat and so on, and maybe a nice dinner. Of course, I cannot do that, but nevertheless, the big advantage is I can actually speak with you now live. It cost me 2 hours of my time, so I happily say yes. If I would come to Taiwan, it would probably take me 3 or 4 days of my time, which would be much more challenging, right? So it is a good way of getting a good quantity, a good number of English language teaching in your institution without the cost of having to hire a lot of foreign experts. But having said that, I wouldn't say it replaces it. It's more another tool. It's another tool to make sure that students feel comfortable being taught in English. The other element of the equation is the classroom. So obviously, when you have students in the classroom who do not all speak Chinese, you automatically have to teach in English, right? So even if the professor is Chinese, but the students are not all Chinese, English becomes the natural language of instruction. Now, my experience is that if you have only one or two students sitting there who do not speak Chinese, again, it feels awkward. It feels a bit, strange to suddenly have to teach in English to all these students. Everybody has to teach, everybody has to speak English just because one or two people do not speak Chinese. So that is awkward. And I say Chinese, but it was the same in the Netherlands. You know, we would have sometimes these situations whereby you had one foreign student in a class and everybody had to speak English, and it just didn't really work that well. So there is a kind of a minimum number of students really who should be speaking that other language, and then it feels natural, and I call that the critical mass. Now, it's not a science, but I can tell you that from my experience, when roughly 20% of the students in the classroom are, you know, and I'm sure it can be 15% as well. It depends a bit how big the class is, but typically around 20% of the class is not speaking the same language, then automatically English becomes the natural language for a classroom. And that has been always my aim, to make sure that if I wanted to make the transition to from a local spoken and domestic language to an English language, that I would try to make sure that class is roughly 20% of its students speaking another language. And that was what I call the tipping point, is when actually English becomes the obvious language to use, and nobody questions that. In order to get those 20%, you don't also need to bring them in. Now, partly you do that, of course, through exchange programs. We already do that in a big scale. But the other way of doing that is through recruiting students. So attracting talent from around the world to come and study at your institution. Once you teach in English, you become attractive to non-Chinese speaking students. When you only speak Chinese, of course, there's a lot of Chinese students. You still can bring a lot of students. But if you say, no, as part of my internationalization policy, I want to look beyond the Chinese speaking students, and I want to open up the university to other students as well, then really it is important that you have a marketing to make it clear to these students that your university is an international university. You know, you can survive easily when you're speaking English. The teaching is done in English, and it is convenient to study there, even though you might not be fluent in Chinese. And that means you need to have a marketing operation and marketing materials. One of the interesting things for bilingual universities is that you therefore have two languages to do your marketing in. So when you are a Dutch university, you have marketing materials in Dutch and you have marketing materials in English. And with the English language materials, you address your English students, who English-speaking students, international students, who have different questions and have different type of information than your domestic students. And that is a big advantage when you are a bilingual university. You actually have two languages, so you can also project two images, for instance. And I use that also in Germany for the German university. Initially, when I arrived there, yes, there were two sets of marketing materials, German and English language, but it was just translated. They translated the German into English or the English into German, but that's actually not smart, because you address different audiences. So when I was at Lady University, I can remember I very carefully made sure that the English brochures, an English website, and so on, really projected a certain image. It would explain a lot of things about the university, about its history, about its research strength, even the location of Leiden city, which of course Dutch students, you don't need to explain. They know that already. So there's a lot of information, you know, you can actually do different, and you can use bilingual information very good for branding as well. It's a big problem we have when you are in the English-speaking university, like when I was at the University of Westminster, had a continuous battle because all our materials were in English, but they were actually written for domestic markets. So they would say, you know, admission criteria, A-levels, right? Now, A-levels are very British. You don't have A-levels around the world. So it was very difficult to continuously explain to me, saying, yes, people can read the English, but it doesn't mean you answer the questions of non-British students. And sometimes being an English-speaking university is actually a disadvantage when it comes to your marketing. You can't make that distinction. So I think this is actually something you want to take full advantage of. So what I also want to suggest, something that I didn't have available in the early days, but I'm really passionate about, is collaborative online international learning, COIL, C-O-I-L, collaborative online international learning. What happens there is that you have groups of students who, let's say in this case, are in Taiwan, and they work on projects with groups of students in other parts of the world, whether they are in the States, whether they are in Germany, or in anywhere else, Japan or wherever, right? And these groups actually, they are working across the world on projects. So typically in all your teaching, I'm sure at the moment you have group work for students. So they're told, okay, this group of students is going to work on project A, and that group of students is going to work on project B as part of the learning process, right? So this is, obviously modern learning isn't just about listening to a professor, it's actually doing things together, teaching students how teamwork works, and teach them how deadlines work, and get them to, this is very important part to be job ready. But in a modern world, in a global world, they have to be job ready. They have to be able to do these projects with students on the other side of the world as well. In the future, they will have to work with colleagues around the world. Like in my job, I am spending most of my day talking with colleagues. One moment they are in Vancouver, the other moment they are in Berlin, and the other moment they might be in Singapore. And very often we're working on projects, being in different parts of the world at the same time. And you need to be comfortable being able to do that if you really want to be successful in the modern global knowledge economy. So teaching students to do that at an early stage and using English language as a tool there, it immediately explains to them why they are doing it. And also it is sometimes a bit less stressful than when you have to sit for an assessment or something like that. So it's something I am a passionate believer in, and that is introducing collaborative online international learning, COIL. Find institutions who are also committed. There are a lot of institutions in the world now, and a lot of consortia of universities which really stimulate the introduction of collaborative online international learning, COIL. Linked to that is the importance of making sure that when students use English, they have fun. This is the most important element for introducing English as a tool of instruction, and that is students need to be able to enjoy it. One of the biggest problems we have when we teach languages is that it's actually very often not fun at all, right? It's one of the reasons why students don't like learning languages. Why was I not very good at languages when I was a student at school? Is because the way it was taught was more like torture, right? It was learning long list of words, and it's learning grammar. And as soon as you would say something, the professor or the teacher would correct you because you made mistakes. So you become very nervous about speaking the language because you know that you make mistakes and you're continuously being corrected. And it's not fun at all. And that's the big problem. If you want to use, if you want students to enjoy using English and not being afraid of it, they actually need to use the language also in a way that it actually is fun, it's enjoyable. And that is something very, very important. And is, I think, taking away that fear of making mistakes is one crucial element to be successful in introducing English as a medium of instruction. And of course, you need to do that at the university, but ideally, that is already being done at primary and secondary school level. And I think one of the things universities could do and could do better is actually working with primary and secondary school level students to actually help them to see that you can use English. You do not need to be afraid of making mistakes. It is fun, and really get them to be comfortable with using the language. Now, I'm aware that I've been given 20 minutes, and of course, being a good academic, that means I speak for 30. So I'm going to really make the reflection of saying, why are we doing this? So I've been focusing very much on how to do it and the lessons I've learned and what not to do, and where you can make mistakes, but also what you should be doing. But also, why are we doing it? First of all, the objective is not obviously speaking English or introducing the English as a means of instruction. Ultimately, it's about changing the mindset. It is the way we think. Actually understanding that we have to be successful. Our alumni, our graduates need to be successful in a globalized knowledge economy. And that's the reality. And in order to do that, you don't only need the tool, English language, but you also need to have the mindset. And what we can give to our students is actually developing that mindset of thinking internationally, thinking globally, rather than just thinking about this is where I am now, I have my national agenda, but then on top of that, there is the outside world in which I interact. Actually, the secret of being successful in a globalized knowledge economy, which is really the driver for our prosperity at the moment, is that having that global mindset. And that's really what we want to give students. And I mentioned earlier something like global university systems, which I invented, if I can put it that way, 10 years ago, is really the result of that kind of global thinking. You have to really understand that in a modern world, you need to be able to think and be comfortable with acting globally, and that's where English language is so important. For the university, it means it can mean a boost in reputation. It can mean being recognized as an international institution. It can be reflected in rankings. Mandy Mock made some very clear recommendations there at the start of how you can use English language as actually building up the international reputation of the institution and making it clear that your graduates actually will be successful in tomorrow's economy and in tomorrow's world. It helps you to attract talent, academic talent, but also talent, give you a competitive advantage in attracting talented students from outside the Chinese-speaking area to come and study at your university. And bilingual marketing, as I said, can be a very powerful tool for that. And last but not least, it also demonstrates the relevance of your university for the Taiwanese society, that you can make a real contribution in the ambition of Taiwan to connect itself very carefully to the world. So my final point, how much time do you need for this? How fast can it be done? My experience in order to transform a university from a monolingual university to a bilingual university, the absolute fastest it can be done is something like 3 years, probably more realistically 5 years, but 3 to 5 years. Now, we are in 2021, so I would suggest you would set your aim to say, okay, in 2025, we want to be completely bilingual. If you set that self as a goal, and you compare that with the national goal of being a bilingual society in 2023, that means that you can really still position yourself in Taiwan as a leading university, as a leading global international university, and take also that lead in that process of becoming a bilingual society. Then the obvious question which comes from that is, okay, so that means between 2021 and 2025, a lot of work needs to be done, and you could almost spell out what needs to be done, what kind of professors do I need to beam in, where can I introduce COIL, how much do I introduce there, how can I adjust my marketing material and make them bilingual, etc. So you can come up with a real working plan there of what needs to be done in the years ahead. So that was my 20-minute introduction. I think I stuck exactly to time, Peter and Mandy. It's great to be able to share my experience with you. I'm happy to answer any questions later on as well. And for in case you want to connect, because I don't have slides, I don't share them, I think this is being put on YouTube as well. And also I am pretty liberal in accepting people who want to link up on LinkedIn and those kind of international social media podium, professional social media podium. So happy for that. And thank you very much for having me here this afternoon for you and this morning for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Are there any questions right now that we can get to? If not, then I'll proceed with my presentation. Let's do that. 1 second. All right, I will not present about a global university system, but about a global rating system, which is the AppliedHE rating system, which you should be able to see here, if all goes well. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Mandy already mentioned, we've got 3 rating families. Today, I'll talk about the English Ready rating and the Online Ready rating. And I think especially for this talk, the English Ready rating is most relevant, also because one of our launch customers, Changchun Christian University, has graciously agreed to share their data. So we're incredibly grateful for that. Yes, so starting with the AppliedHE English Ready rating. I'll briefly introduce the rating so that you know where you're coming from, what we're trying to achieve. Then I'll explain the rating criteria and the outcomes, what you get after you've been rated. And then I'll share the detailed rating results of CJCU. So what is EMI? Just so we're all in the same place. EMI is English as a medium of instruction, and it's a growing trend in global higher education because English is becoming more entrenched as the global language. So universities use it to attract non-English, in non-English speaking, use it to attract local and international students, both more internationally minded local students and of course students who don't speak the local language but who do speak English. EMI programs are often taught by faculty and have students where English is not their first language. And this is something Professor Maurits already alluded to, that can be a big problem. Finally, there's also huge differences in the level of EMI, both within countries and institutions. What is sometimes called an English taught program in some situations is in effect not so much of an English taught program. Now, what are some of the challenges that the field is facing? There's no global standard in EMI, so quality varies a lot. Student and faculty can both struggle with the English language. And that inevitably has an impact on the quality of instruction, because a student would not receive as good an education if they had been taught in the native language, which is a grave concern. EMI is also often combined with kind of English as a second language instruction, which in itself is not a problem, but it does influence the learning outcomes, how the teaching takes place, etc. And EMI is often imposed top-down, and therefore you may have a lack of grassroots participation or support, both from students and faculty. Now, the English Ready rating system aims to evaluate the extent and quality of English instruction at an institution or in individual programs. It's a tool for international benchmarking of EMI, so that you can identify in which areas are we strong, in which areas are we weaker. It can be a marketing and branding tool to highlight the strength of EMI, especially to prospective students, because you can say, look, not only do we teach in English, we've also had it externally evaluated, and it turns out that we really do a great job. And that's something that a rating can communicate. And it helps you better understand your stakeholder perception, because, they might be more willing to open up to a third-party institution like us than they might to management of the institution, which is only natural. You can't do anything about that. So the rating criteria, we look basically at three main components. Those are the first ones. We look at the frequency of English use in class, both by students and faculty. We look at the intensity to which different course components and basic administrative actions are accessible in English. We look at the quality of English used by students and faculty. Now, on top of that, we have 10 extra points which are awarded for the quality of EMI support in supporting students and also faculty's English capabilities. Now, there's three possible rating outcomes after you do our rating. So you can become English Ready rated, which means that you've scored 80 or more points across the three main pillars that I just mentioned, which is frequency, extent, quality. Now, if your institution is slightly shorter of those 80 points, you can still get a few extra points if you scored very strongly in support. And your institution will not be English Ready rated if you score below 80 points. That's the unfortunate reality. A rated institution either gets a conditional rating or a certified rating badge. It looks like this, like a golden comma, which you can use in your publication materials. They're very characteristic. And the data we use are essentially online surveys. So we survey students, we survey faculty, and we survey the policies of the institution. And this is mainly so that we can kind of match the experience of students and faculty to what the institution is trying to do. We need a minimum response rate of 95%, confidence interval 5% error margin, and this is just simple statistics so that we can at least say that our online surveys have some validity. Now, if you want to try out the survey, perhaps you're sitting in front of a screen, you like to multitask, you can find it here. This is the demo survey, appliedhe.org/EnglishReady-demo, or you can take a quick snap with your phone of the QR code. The case study I'm presenting to you is, of course, the well-known Changchun Christian University located in the beautiful city of Tainan, Taiwan. It has about 9,000 students, and the programs that we looked at are international PhD, MBA, and BBA programs with a more business focus, also very interesting in the School of Theology, and a degree program in sustainable development. And this rating was carried out in December 2020. Now we start with the language profile of CJCU and also that of other institutions that took part in the pilot. So this may be different for different countries, different institutions, but we see that there's relatively few students who have English as a first language or have lived in an English-speaking country or who speak the language at home or who've done other graduate work. So this applies to graduate students. There's slightly more students who've actually done secondary schooling in English. So this would probably be a big recruitment segment, but relatively little English language exposure in CJCU. Faculty members, it's a completely different story. Most faculty members actually have pursued graduate studies in English, have actually lived in English-speaking countries. Although for many of them, English is not their first language, and they don't speak it at home. So this gives you an idea about the faculty profile. Now, looking at the frequency of English language use from our surveys, 80% is kind of the target, and you see quite clearly that students' English use is less high than faculty English use. So that's clearly an issue here at CJCU, but it is also at many other students, right? The faculty appear to be stronger at English than the students, or frequently of use. Then if we look at intensity, we see varying degrees, but we essentially see that actually at all the institutions we evaluated, including CJCU, they mean what they say. If they teach in English, then the assignment submission, the course syllabus, exam answer questions, slides, official textbook, everything is properly done in English, which is of course a very good sign. This is how it should be. And also as evaluated by faculty, it's again at the 80% level or above it. So really all the components are covered. Now, looking at the intensity of English use, this is in terms of administration. Again, almost all administrative components can be done in English, and the same is true for the faculty perspective. So that's a very good sign, right? Effectively, the university is bilingual in that sense. Now, if we look at evaluations of quality, I mean, this is inherently a little bit subjective, but we hope that by asking quality from faculty and students, and also the self-evaluation, we get a fairly honest assessment. As you can see, CJCU students appear to be a little bit on the low side. I mean, it's still very good at around the 80% mark, but it's a little bit lower than some of the other institutions. And after we discussed with CJCU, this was one of the challenges they shared, that yes, the students really, they struggle a bit. Quality of faculty, again, seems to be very high, evaluated by everybody, both the students and the faculty themselves, etc. Now we look at support, and we see it's very good at all the institutions that we evaluated. So academic writing, ESL courses, presentation skills are widely supported. And also for faculty, there's a lot of support, and it's generally rated well, sufficient to good or very good. So that's wonderful. Now, looking at the official policy and student and faculty experience, I think the main takeaway from here is that CJCU has quite a flexible policy on quite a few issues, such as whether exam questions or lecture slides should be in English. Yet in practice, most of these things are in English anyway. And there might be very pragmatic reasons for this. So that's very encouraging to see that even though not everything might be laid out fixed in official policy, in practice, there's a lot of compliance. And we see the same thing with how support is valued. So perhaps academic writing and presentation skills, this is not something that's forced top down, but it anyway happens in the programs, and it's very highly evaluated by students and faculty. So again, even though it's not a policy, the outcomes are there nevertheless. Frequency, we see actually that it's quite a bit lower in terms of use by students and faculty, and that perhaps fits the policy as well, that occasionally faculty and students are allowed to switch to English, which is probably for pragmatic reasons, that if there's really very few international students or no international students, it's very tempting to use a foreign language. I mean, to use the local language, and that's something we would all understand. Now we come to the scoring and results, CJCU. So you can see that in the initial round of scoring, CJCU almost made 80 points. They're very, very, very close. But then with the support, which is extremely strong, they pass with flying colors. So congratulations to CJCU. So for this reason, CJCU is conditionally rated. And of course, it's the first institution in Taiwan to do so. So it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege for us to work with CJCU to bring this about. So congratulations again. And of course, we're looking forward to evaluate many more institutions in Taiwan, also with a view that you can learn from each other, see what the other ones are doing well, not so well, because you know each other's local context very well. Oh, here's the demo survey again. If you wanted it. So this concludes the English Ready, and I will now give you a very quick introduction of Online Ready, which is a new rating which is currently in the pilot phase. Again, some similar questions as you may have asked with the English Ready rating. Why an Online Ready rating? So we've seen a huge growth in online teaching, and some of it is likely to remain because certain kinds of classroom-based teaching, such as huge mass lectures with, let's say, 800, 900 students, those are most likely a thing of the past, not just for public health reasons, but for educational reasons as well. It's just not very effective. And the cost of maintaining huge lecture halls is huge. However, as with English Ready, as with English teaching, there is a huge difference in delivery. I mean, online courses can be, we send you a PDF of the syllabus and you can go look for some YouTube videos and then see you for the exam. Or it can be these kind of interactive meetings that we're having now. There's a whole range. So the benefits of doing Online Ready actually are similar to the earlier rating. There's an aspect of global benchmarking. There's a marketing and branding benefit. It can help you attract international students to online programs because you're certified to be very good at Online Ready learning, online learning. And stakeholder engagement. It's of course an opportunity to see how students and faculty look at online programs. Now, we look at four main components: course delivery, learning support, examination and recognition, and also faculty. And basically, the benchmark that we maintain is more or less based on US News' best online programs ranking, which is a very high level. So we really want to compare you against industry leaders and then see how you perform. Now, course delivery, we look at many different aspects. Student interaction, whether the coursework is collaborative, whether students can access materials online, whether it's advantages actually taken of this whole online learning situation through self-quizzes, simulations, multimedia materials, whatnot. Whether students have online to good resources, such as an online library, whether there is opportunities for this one-on-one interaction, students getting answers to the questions that they have, etc. Being able to provide feedback, and also being accessible to students with visual or hearing disabilities. Then for learning support, actually coaching in online learning is found to be tremendously important. Students need to know what to do. It's not the same as classroom-based learning. So that's something we look at. Online students, if there's a good mentoring program, a good counseling service, if there's career placement, and of course, if there's technology support, because you can't learn if your system is down. Then for examination and recognition, students need to be able to submit all coursework online. The online exams need to be visually proctored by 2 cameras. Credits, of course, need to transfer. There needs to be an anti-plagiarism policy. I mean, all things that if an institution has organized their online program well is in place, but you'll be surprised that it isn't always in place, and that is why we have this rating. And also faculty, they need to be properly trained, receive the correct support, and the students need to be satisfied with what they're doing. The evaluation method is, again, an institutional survey where we try and understand what are the official online policies of the institution, and then a student survey and a faculty survey of a representative sample to kind of validate what the institution is telling us. Again, we have a demo survey here that you can look at. So that's appliedhe.org/online-ready-demo, or the QR code. So you can see, if you decide to run the survey, what your students and faculty will get to see right away. Okay, those are 2 very quick introductions. I imagine you might have some questions. So we can go now to the Q&A, if there are questions indeed. All right, any questions or things we could perhaps comment on further? Okay, the mentoring, I am just reading out a comment here. Yes, you can type in the comments as well. You can also turn on your cameras and just shout out, that's also fine. The mentoring program is obviously essential to students who need extra help. Yes, it is. And this is why we bring that in. I think mentoring is a really good thing to bring up also for English as a medium of instruction. And I see Professor Maurits nodding, so perhaps he can talk a bit more about mentoring as a whole for
Yes.
especially EMI.
Yes, and especially when we're also talking about mentoring as in buddy system. You know, student to student mentoring buddy system, whereby you link, you know, one student to another student. It's always been very effective at universities to do that, because it's kind of a more relaxed form of mentoring for students. So, but it becomes especially interesting when you do that at a global level. So when you link a student in one country to a buddy in another country, adds a whole new dimension to the mentoring system. There's a lot of interest in the world of, you know, students like this concept a lot, whereby they really learn informally from each other. And that's why, you know, the buddy system as a form of mentoring system is very popular with students. It's actually kind of fun, but they learn at the same time a lot. You know, you also learn outside the classroom, not only inside the classroom. And as a university, you can facilitate that, stimulate that, and so on. And in addition to that, of course, there is the formal mentoring system. The one system where I also have very good experience is coaching system. So it's another form of mentoring system, whereby actually students who are maybe struggling a little bit actually get a coach. That can be an alumnus, it can also be you know, an advanced student or something like that, who really help them through some of the more difficult parts of a study. It's an interesting concept because it actually is based on the principle that we want all students to succeed. So rather than having a competitive system whereby, you know, like a rat race, some win and some lose, and it's actually a thinking about education where you say, no, we want all our students to succeed, and actually it's in the interest of the entire cohort who is studying that they not only all start with the study, but they also all graduate. And it's a bit of a different way of looking at study. So rather than seeing it as an traditional rat race where, you know, you kind of rank your students in comparison to each other, who are the best and who are the failures, you actually say, no, on the contrary, we want all our students to succeed. Once you have managed to get into our university, you know, we feel, we are confident that you can succeed. And then coaching, mentoring, buddy system, and so on are very, very important for that. Yeah.
There's
Yes.
another question here in the chat, which actually I wanted to ask you as well. That's a very good question. Question for Professor Maurits. Have you encountered any resistance from faculty or students when implementing EMI instruction, especially if English is not the native or official language of the country?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of emotion involved in this, by the way. It's not only about the rationality. We're having now a nice discussion. Of course, it's a very rational discussion, but of course, this triggers emotions. And there are two areas which are particularly sensitive. One area for students is the assessment. So students really do not mind being taught in English and so on, and they're kind of okay with that, especially the modern generations. But when it comes to being assessed, it suddenly becomes all very real, and they feel normally much more comfortable being assessed in their own, you know, native tongue than in English as a language, and that can trigger real emotions. And I'm actually quite sympathetic to that. I think it probably says something about the way we assess students. Right. So first of all, when we assess students about a particular topic, we have to be careful that it doesn't become a language assessment. Right. There is one thing of assessing people's language ability, which of course you focus on the language, and the other one is actually assessing their ability to understand the materials, to be creative with it, to be innovative, you know, to really show they they master the content, and then the language is only a tool. And you have to be very careful that assessment, especially when you do it in a second language or like English, that it doesn't become like a grading of the English language. And this is a very important point, and that is, how do we assess students when it comes to using English as a medium of instruction, and that we do not get tempted to actually start shifting from assessing the content and the mastering of the content to the language. This is actually a big problem anyway. I mean, I've had, as you know, I've also worked for English universities, had many discussions whereby sometimes the admission criteria for universities become like, how good are you in English? And I've always been very skeptical about that, as that's not your main selection criterion at all. When a student comes in and they're really bright, but they might not be that good in English, we can deal with that. If they're really good in English, but they're not all that bright, we got a problem. We cannot make students brighter than they are, right? But we can do something about their English language. So I always get very skeptical when people get too obsessed with English language. You do have to say it's only a medium of instruction. It's only a tool, right? With all respect for those who are English language professors and so on, and I'll probably get very emotional as well by me saying that, but it's obviously different when you study English literature or something like that. But otherwise, you have to really understand why you are doing this. The other aspect with the professors, Peter, and you will be able to relate to this. Of course, some professors are actually feel they are pressurized in teaching in English rather than in Chinese, and they're actually not that comfortable with it, or in Dutch in my case, or German. And first of all, there is the argument I used at Leiden University when we introduced that all the masters would be taught in English. There was an immediate pushback on that. Professors really thought this was silly, and we were trying to be fashionable and trendy, etc. And we were a Dutch university, we were teaching Dutch and so on. And I just pointed out that the university, which is an old university, was founded in the 16th century, has for most of its history been teaching in Latin. It only started teaching in Dutch in the 19th century. So now suddenly saying that this is a Dutch university teaching in Dutch is actually rather fashionable in its own way. It has always been teaching in Latin. And why did it teach in Latin? Quite simply because in those days that was the lingua franca. And not all the professors were Dutch, and not all the professors were able to speak Dutch, right? So we would have professors, even in those days, from all over the world. And the only way they could communicate with the students was in Latin. And that's why most universities still, have Latin degree ceremonies and all that kind of stuff, right? It's where in the Western world that comes from. So teaching in a national language in the Western world is actually quite a modern phenomenon. So yes, I mean, that was definitely an argument to stop that particular, reasoning. But having said that, I'm well aware of the emotion. I'm also well aware of the sensitivities. You do not like to be able to have to say to a colleague that maybe your English isn't good enough, and therefore you cannot teach in English, right? So this is another very sensitive point where sometimes the students start complaining about the professor trying to teach in English, better English, is really not really up to it. And we need to be very sensitive on how to help assist our professors to do. I was very impressed when I saw your survey, Peter. This is clearly a university where professors do have studied in English abroad, have worked abroad, and so on. So, but certainly I've had sometimes that problem that some of my colleagues really had to be, have a quiet word of saying, you might need to do a bit more work on your English language before you want to teach in English. Right?
Yeah, if can I ask a brief follow-up question? I was wondering, how do you secure the buy-in then? Or is it unfortunately always going to be top-down? Sorry, guys, we're going in English. You're going to hate me, so be it.
Well, first of all, being a university leader, you don't do that to be popular, right?
Sure.
I know we got the vice president there, maybe the president and so on. And look, if you step into those positions, you definitely don't do it because you want to win the popularity prize. You will obviously not always be liked by all your colleagues for what you say. And that's part of the package because you speak for the institution and not always for every individual. That's true, Peter. But having said that, there is also often more effective is the peer group pressure. If you, the majority of your colleagues actually feel that this is a good idea, then there is a kind of an internal peer group pressure. And when it comes to transition, there is a kind of the golden rule of 15, 70, 15, and that is 15% think it's an absolutely fabulous idea, whatever you say, they actually are the champions, they love it. And 15% thinks it's an absolutely stupid idea and they're dead against it. And then you got 70% who actually are willing to make up their mind and go either way. And that's true whether it comes to introducing English language or whether it comes to any change at the university or similar kind of professional organizations. You've got that 15, 70, 15 rule. And the 50% who support you are actually not the most relevant ones because they already support you. So you don't want to surround yourself with them all the time. And the 15% who are really against it, you will never convince.
Yeah.
And they will teach in their own language. And yes, they get a little bit marginalized, but it's the 70% you want to actually, the big majority of that 70% you really want to bring with you and explain why this is in the interest of their students. You're not doing this just because it's your own idea. You know that your students will benefit from this. They will be more employable. They will be more successful in their careers and so on to have gone through this type of. Now, a lot of people are happy to buy into that idea and they're willing to support you and give you the benefit of the doubt. So when you get the majority of that 70%, then you have the second thing, and that is the peer group pressure, that some people are still not doing it. Why are you not doing it? And they become a little bit marginalized. And that's how transition tend to work in higher education. And this is why I said, how fast can you do it? If it was purely top-down, yes, you could do it probably in 3 months, right? But that's not how it works in the university. You do need to get that buy-in, Peter, you're absolutely right. And that's why it takes you minimum 3 years, more likely 5 years, to really bring that 70%, most of that 70% with you. But, I do not get sleepless nights about the fact that 15% of my colleagues will always continue to hate me. Right?
Okay. That's what comes with leadership. I'm wondering if there's any other questions or comments from the floor. Perhaps somebody who wants to share something that in particular that's happening in Taiwan, or well, if not really, then I think Professor Moritz has had a fantastic presentation, as has all the other speakers. And then I suggest we move to closing a little bit earlier, so some of you can also get to dinner, and perhaps Professor Van Rooyen to his third cup of coffee for the day. So I'd like to invite the Changchun Christian University Dean of Global Engagement, Dr. Min-Yu Michelle Lee, to deliver some closing remarks.
Okay, could everyone hear me clearly?
Very well.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And I should say good morning to Professor Maurice. On behalf of CJCU, first of all, I'd like to thank Mandy and AppliedHE for inviting CJCU to co-organize this event and share your resources with us. Second, I'd like to thank Professor Marius for sharing your experience in EMI instruction in both the school policy level and the practicing level. That was really an inspiring talk. I personally learned a lot from you, especially when CJCU just took the English Ready rating pilot and received the result with a detailed, informative, and analytical report. Together with the new idea on EMI instruction and the English Ready rating result, all this will create a direction for us in the future in terms of promoting the quality of education, especially the EMI programs, that we could offer to our students, and hope we could turn ourselves into a world university to attract more students and talents to learn and work with us. Last but not least, I'd like to thank all the participants and especially our higher education partner from Taiwan and Malaysia. We had wonderful sharing and discussion in today's webinar. That's bring our new idea back and implement in our own institutions. I believe together we could change the future of the higher education. And in the end, I hope COVID-19 pandemic will pass soon, so we could see each other again soon. Please keep safe and healthy. Thank you again, and I wish every one of you a great summer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And then for the final closing remarks, the founder and CEO of AppliedHE again, Ms. Mandy Monk.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your time today. I hope you've enjoyed the presentations and find the information useful. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank CJCU, who have worked very hard behind the scene to make this webinar possible, especially to Dr. Min Yu Lee and her team. And thanks again to you, the audience, for taking the time to join us today from Taiwan and beyond. And of course, our guest speaker, Professor Maurice Van Wouden. Well, although this marks the end of this webinar, I hope to see all of you online, of course, at our next webinar, Squaring the Circle Debate, on the 7th of July at 8 p.m. Singapore time or Taiwan time. So keep safe and see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye. I don't know how we close this webinar. You can just turn off and go. Bye-bye.
Thank you all very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Professor
Bye.
Maurice. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.